Today is a day of experiments. We are gonna make smoked corned beef on the Ninja Woodfire outdoor grill. Welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. Today I'm gonna smoke my home cured, started out as a brisket flat, is now corned beef, right? Because I cured it over a 7-day period. And we're gonna put it on the Ninja Woodfire. So it started out as 4 pounds, 12 ounces of a flat cut brisket. Then I put it into the brining solution that I used, which is a dry brine. I did a dry brine. And put it in the refrigerator, flipped it every day. And after 7 days, we had corned beef. And now I have weighed it. It is 4 pounds, 6 ounces. And so we're gonna get it onto the smoker and smoke it and see what happens. I have not done this before, guys. So I don't usually put out videos where I haven't tested the recipe, 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 20 times before I release a recipe. But with this, because so much love and care went into curing the corned beef, I wanted to get it on the smoker and I wanted to share it with you guys in case you want to smoke your own corned beef, because you don't have to home cure a brisket to do that. You can certainly buy one already done at the store. So just buy a flat cut corned beef and you can do this recipe. But I will have some tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you about that a little bit later in the video if you buy a store-bought one. And also I have those written out on my website, thesaltedpepper.com. All right, let's get into it because this is going to be pretty easy to do. It's going to be, it's a longer smoke, but it's going to be pretty easy to do. First thing you want to do is figure out what kind of pellets you want to use. And I don't think you can go wrong with your pellet choice here as long as you don't go too strong. I wouldn't do mesquite, which is a very powerful smoke in my opinion. I would stick with the fruit woods. I've decided to go with apple wood, but you could also do cherry wood. That would be good. You could do oak or hickory. All of those would be great options. Even maple would probably be okay. Jeff said pecan, so pecan would probably be fine. But I wanted to go with apple because I think apple pairs nicely with cabbage, and I'm experimenting, which I'll talk about in a minute. Experimenting with some different types of sides for corned beef and cabbage dinner. So the first thing you want to do is get your smoker set up. Even before you get your corned beef, like get your probe into it and things like that and get that set up, you want to start your wood fire. So add the pellets, select the smoker function, set the temperature to 225 degrees Fahrenheit, and the time to 6 hours and 15 minutes, and then hit the start button. You don't have to press the ignition switch. On the smoker function, it's gonna automatically ignite. Let the pellets ignite, and then let it smoke for 15 minutes before you put your corned beef on. That is going to get rid of all that heavy white smoke, which can cause bitterness in your food. You also wanna make sure that your drip pan is installed in the back so you don't have all the fat and juices leaking out onto your table. And if you want to, you can line it with some aluminum foil to make cleanup a little bit easier. The only thing I'm gonna do to prep this corned beef is to get a thermometer probe into it. My goal is to get up to about 195 degrees Fahrenheit for a sliceable but tender corned beef. And we'll test it out. And if 195 doesn't give me the results I want, well, then I'll keep cooking it until it reaches a little bit higher temps. So again, this is an experiment. It's gonna be tons of fun and I cannot wait to see what it tastes like at the end. So let's get this in, and we want it to be sitting right about the center. So I think the best way to go in here, based on how I'm measuring, because you want this tip to be right about the center, will be to go in from the side here. So I'm just gonna pick a center spot and push my probe all the way in, just like that, okay? And I can push down and see where the tip is, okay? So I can kind of see where my placement is. So that looks good. Now, to smoke this, I'm actually gonna leave it on this rack. That is not necessary, so you do not have to do that. You could put it directly on the grill grate, but I'm gonna leave it on the rack and allow some smoke to go underneath as well. And we're gonna smoke it at 225 degrees until it's done. Because this is an experiment, I really have no idea. I set the time for 6 hours and we're just gonna go by ear. So I will let you know along the way where our temperatures get to after hour 2 and 4, and we'll make adjustments as we go. I'm also going to glaze this towards the end of cooking, and I might even air fry it to crisp up the fat cap. And I'll make that determination a little bit later. For now, let's get it on the smoker. We are about 90 minutes into the smoking time of the corned beef, and I'm gonna go ahead and make up the glaze now. I'm gonna start glazing about 2 hours into the smoke time. So for this glaze, it's super easy. 3 ingredients: a 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar, 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar, and 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. And then you just whisk that up. Now, this is the same glaze that I use on my pressure cooked corned beef, and it is so amazing. Everybody loves it. So I just know it's gonna be perfect on this smoked corned beef. Now, it's a very thin glaze, so I'm gonna use a little silicone brush to kind of brush it on the top. And we'll start that about 2 hours into the smoke time. Now, let me also talk about the pellets being refilled. I have refilled them. When I say refill, let me clarify that. I've topped them off. So we've got the little hopper that holds about a 1/4 cup of pellets. Well, I started off with a full hopper full, so a 1/4 cup. And that is 1 scoop. And then after it went through the ignition process and cooked for a little bit of time, I checked it. It was 25% reduced down. So the pellets had burned 25%. And I went ahead and topped them off just by adding some more pellets till it reached the top. That way the pellets are still actively burning and it ignites those new pellets you add, and you don't have to hit the ignition switch. Then about 90 minutes in, I also checked and it was 50% down. So I went ahead and filled them up again. So I've used a total of a 1/2 cup so far of the pellets, and we are about 90 minutes into the cook time. The temperature is 125 degrees Fahrenheit, so we still have a ways to go. I recommend with smoking that you keep the smoke going the entire time, but that is a personal preference. When I'm doing larger pieces of meat, I absolutely keep that hopper full the entire time I'm cooking it, okay? But if you like less smoke flavor, you could do 1 or 2 hoppers full and then just cut off the smoke and let the low temperatures continue to cook the food. It is totally up to you. For me, I'm gonna keep the smoke going the entire time. So just a little recap of the smoked corned beef. What I did was I glazed, after hour 2, I glazed every hour until the 4th hour. And then I finished off with some glaze, and 4 hours and 40 minutes into the smoke time, I switched over to air crisp on 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm gonna crisp up that fat cap. That is how I do it when I pressure cook my corned beef, and that is what I think is gonna be wonderful in this recipe too. And that's one of the benefits of the Ninja Woodfire, is you can go from the smoke function right to air crisp right in the same appliance. So why not use it? And it's going to make this fantastic. All I can say is, wow. If this tastes like it smells, we are in for a real treat. I am so excited. Now, unfortunately, my probe that I had put in ran out of battery towards the end of the smoking process. So that's okay. I just left it in there. But now we are up to 204 degrees. That is pretty much perfect. It's also probe tender. So when I go in different places, it just goes through like butter, okay? That's another way to tell if your brisket, or in this case, corned beef, has finished cooking. So now I'm just gonna let it sit here for about 5 minutes, and then I will slice it up and we will see what the interior looks like. Now don't judge me too much because this is home cured. So I started with the brisket, like I said earlier, and I cured it myself to make corned beef. So I'm really hoping that we've got that beautiful signature red inside. No smoke ring, but the Ninja Woodfire doesn't usually ever produce a smoke ring anyway. So we're not gonna see that, and you wouldn't see that even if you were doing this on a regular smoker. I can honestly say I have never seen anything like this before in my life, and it looks absolutely beautiful. There is such a nice crust on top. I know some people are gonna say, oh, it's burnt. It is not burnt. That is what happens when you smoke. It gets very dark, and then of course I air crisp at the end with that glaze. So that is why it's so dark. It is not burnt. This looks absolutely perfect, and it looks moist. I'm so excited right now. I can't even begin to tell you. So I'm going to take a little, oh my gosh, that cut so beautifully. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to do this in true barbecue fashion here. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. This is the best thing I think I've ever tasted in my life. That bark is so good. The meat is exactly the way I wanted it to be. So it is not like crumbly falling apart. It's not something you would pull apart. You could if you used the point end or maybe even cooked it a little bit longer. But we got up to 205 degrees because I did monitor it with this instant read. It is absolutely perfect. This is going to be so good served with my little experiment here of smothered cabbage. And this has some Cajun spices. So I'm interested to see how it's going to pair with the smoked brisket. So I'm going to take a bite together here. Whoops. Oh my. Wow. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Every St. Patrick's Day, I make corned beef and cabbage. And this year I wanted to do something totally different, something that I've never done before. I highly recommend smoking your corned beef. It is absolutely amazing. Don't skip that glaze. Don't skip that air fry step. It is so, so good. I also tried what's called salt potatoes, and I got a little bit of a crust on there, but honestly, for the time it took to make them, I didn't really feel like it was worth it. Now, I have a little bit of butter on here, and I'm gonna see what it would be like with this corned beef, because if you have leftovers, which I don't think you will, but if you have leftovers, you could obviously make a corned beef hash with potatoes. Wow. This is so good. I mean, really, really good. So if you haven't done it yet, smoke a corned beef. You won't be sorry.